Oh my, it's Kelly White.
Hey, it's James Van Prague.
What are you up to?
Thinking about changing the world.
Me too. We should do a show together.
What would it be about?
Let me show you.
The James and Kelly Show.
I think the next week I'll do a hot air balloon or something.
One of these days we'll have to do that together.
Yeah, and you know the beard is gone, so there we go. So we're gonna redo that.
Oh,
So hi, Kelly White.
Well, hi, James. How are you today?
Well, I'm good since speaking to you this morning. Something happened this morning with Kelly and myself, and
Oh my God, it was so funny.
You want to tell the story?
Yeah, let me tell them what happened. It was really funny. So I look at the clock, and it was 10 a.m. my time. So I live in Wisconsin, so it was 10 a.m. And I said, "Oh God, I want to call James, but it's too early. He's probably asleep." And that exact moment, my phone rang, and it was James. And tell him what you said.
I woke up at around 8 o'clock, 7:30. Welcome my dog. Oh, Kelly's trying to call me, and she thinks it's too early to call me.
Yes.
So I called her and said that to her.
It was exactly like this. I mean, it was a fast. We always have those kind of connections.
We do,
which is fun.
And today we're going to get to our show right away. But Kelly, I asked her when we first got together, right before we went on here, what's going on with the universe, because it feels really crazy, and it's almost like you put your foot down and then the earth falls apart. You go the other step, the earth falls apart. So, Kelly, what's happening? So you have some major news for us.
Yeah, I really do. So today is what we call the most important astrological aspect of the year. It's a big one, and it's the second part of a 3-part series. The third final will be in December. But today, Saturn squares Uranus. So this Saturn is in Aquarius, which is Aquarius is fixed, and it doesn't really fit with Saturn. They don't like each other.
Very mental sign.
Mental sign, and it's uncomfortable. It's not its house, and it's
Saturn is very very rigid in a way.
Saturn is rigid. It's karma. It's the old way of doing things. It's the old. But it's in Aquarius, so it's odd, right?
It's the opposite.
It's the opposite.
Freedom, independence, and new ways of thinking.
Exactly. And it's squaring Uranus, which Uranus is the planet of surprise, new age thinking. We're going to change. And Uranus is in Taurus, also a fixed sign, and very stable, stubborn. And so these two kind of come together in this cataclysmic energy, and the reason it's happening now is to move us along. We have to be moved. I mean, a gentle or not so gentle, depending on your life, big change comes with something like that. And I've said to everybody, look at your life in 2008 to 2010 and look at it and see where you were. It doesn't mean negative things. It means life is moving you on to where you're supposed to be next.
Kelly, could this have also occurred, this energy, like a week before or a couple of days before?
Oh, it's going to be days before, weeks after. You're going to feel this for the year after this moment. I mean, it really is.
A week ago, and then things started happening 4 days ago, and that got intense the other day.
Yes.
Like, whoa, okay.
Yes. And so again, it doesn't mean that it's happening today. Today happens to be a concentration of energy, but that energy is going to go way out.
And we'll see this play out next week or so? Or
we'll see this play out until 2022. That's how big this is. Yeah, this is a big one. And in December, it's the third final act of this energy. And it's here to change us. Listen, we've been in the house for what, a year and a half, sequestered?
Yeah.
So it's interesting, right? That now it's kind of pushing us out to the next place.
Without a doubt. And with this globally, of course, means something. And it make us feel uncomfortable, or
it could make us feel very uncomfortable because it's looking at the old, and then there's the new way of being, the old versus the new. So it's going to feel very uncomfortable when you have to make choices and changes. It's difficult for people, and this energy is going to go, oh really, you've got a problem? Okay, here you go.
Oh, yeah, it's true.
So, I mean, if I look at my life in 2008 to 2010, I started graduate school. I wasn't necessarily prepared, but I did it. It made a big change in my life. So it's big changes.
Wow. I was going to say, I I don't know. I was going to say something about, well, will it make us all uncomfortable or not? Or
It could, change makes people uncomfortable.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think so, but it could, sure, because you'll have to make a choice of, do I want to stay the old way?
Correct.
Do I want to stay in the way I was? Well, life doesn't work that way.
No.
It just doesn't. It's not what we signed up for in this dimension, in this planet, in this school.
Right. Embrace the change.
Embrace it. Let's
Because
go. Come on.
that's our growth. It's great. Wow. Thank you, Kelly.
You're welcome.
Whenever I talk to Kelly on the phone, it's like, what's it look like astrology? In probably the past, 3 years?
Oh, yeah.
It's been boom, 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 boom. I don't want to talk to you anymore, Kelly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But I was right about 2020.
100%. Oh, 110%. Without a doubt. So today or tonight, wherever you are in the world, we wanted to share with you a special person. So from how long have we doing the show now? About a year and a half, maybe, or a year?
Several months, yeah.
Several months, maybe close to a year, several months.
Yeah.
Feels like a long time.
Almost a year. Yeah.
Almost a year. But there's always been a lot of emotional trauma. A lot of that in every single show we've done.
Every show.
Always comes up, because I know you're at traumahealing.org, and and I was just on a separate level, just saying to Spirit, can we have someone or something that could bring them in to help with this? So how the universe has it, I met a woman, a lady who was a yoga teacher, who is my yoga teacher currently, and I met her as like constant connection, and Virgo again, and her name's Kelly, and all the special people in my lives are Virgos who are Kellys. She's the third.
Or Virgos and Kellys.
Virgos and Kellys, and all three Kellys have different spellings of Kelly, so I know it was okay. And it's Spirit's way of saying, here you go. So Kelli Russell also, she said, and we're doing yoga one day. We're going to do yoga, and I was a little tired. I said, Kelly, I heard you do some kind of energy work. Is that true? Yes. And I said, can you do a session with me instead of the yoga? And she goes, yeah. Well, I found out things. And she did a process with me, which she's going to share with everybody later on. And it goes to the subconscious. And it was quite an amazing experience and an insight which I didn't have my whole life. And it brought me back to a time in childhood and so forth, and released stuff. And it was really incredible. So I want to share with everybody. So Kelli Russell is an emotional code practitioner, which is Psych K, a facilitator. And she has an MA in counseling and using applied kinesiology, which is muscle testing, and different techniques. She goes into the releasing subconscious emotional stresses and traumas. So, and they really, she releases them to people, and so they can live a full life without trauma. So let's introduce Kelli Russell, everybody. Hi, Kelli.
Hello, Kelli. Hi.
Thank
Welcome.
you for that beautiful introduction. And I loved your introduction commercial. That was amazing. I thought I was watching a TV show. It was so cool.
We changed the world.
I loved it.
Good. Well, welcome. Kelli, you have
Thank
such a
you.
fascinating background. Tell everybody who you are and what you do.
Okay. Well, gosh, from the time I was a little kid, I always saw a bunch of grown-ups around me that seemed very unhappy. They were complaining about their spouses, complaining about their work. They just seemed like they created this life that they didn't like. And I thought, why would somebody ever do that? So that was always my goal. I wanted to be some type of psychologist from the time I was 12 years old. And then I went on and I got my undergrad in psychology, my master's in marriage and family therapy. And then I started getting into my internship hours and doing the work. But I saw a lot of resistance and denial. Like I felt like I was just up against a lot of roadblocks where I just wanted to hold people by their shoulders and say, can't you see it?
Right.
And so at the same time, I started getting into yoga, and I was sitting in the back of classes and I would watch people. And they'd go into the yoga room and their shoulders were slumped and their eyes were downcast. And 1 hour later, they would walk out of that room a different person, their chest open, sparkles in their eyes. It seemed so transformative in such a short period of time that I decided to shift, and I became a yoga and meditation teacher for over a decade. I had a corporate yoga business, and then I got to the point where I'm teaching other yoga teachers how to become teachers themselves. So yoga teacher trainer. And then something happened to my best friend. She's a few years younger than me, and she was doing this yearly hike that she does out in the wilderness. And she jumped onto a boulder and she broke a little portion of her back. And they had to airlift her off of the mountain and into, they decided not to do surgery. They said it was just a little chip off of a vertebra. They said, we're not going to do surgery for you. But she and I used to meet every Wednesday for lunch. And I watched this woman for 2 years struggle with pain. So first she would see the osteopathic doctors, then the physical therapist. Then she got into acupuncture and acupressure and this really painful type of like therapeutic massage where they would roll out the tissues and the ligaments, and physical therapy. I think I mentioned sports kinesiologist, and then she got into taking pain pills, and then she finally had the surgery 2 years later, and nothing worked.
Wow.
And so after surgery healed, she was right back in square one, saying, the pain is still there. I'm still in the pain that I was in. And she finally got referred to this 86-year-old doctor who's an emotional kinesiologist. And he started muscle testing her arm, and he's asking her body, basically, is it something physical? Is it nutritional? Is it emotional? Or does it have to do with the circuitry in your system? And her body said very clearly, it's emotional. And she said, no, doc, that can't be. I'm driving around in my car with ice packs on my back, so it's obviously not emotional. And he just smiled at her and he said, come back next week. Let's look at this again. And so she came back and he muscle tested her arm, her body. And he said, is it physical, emotional? Is it something with your nutrition, or is it the circuitry? And her body said, it's emotional. And so he started asking her questions, and she wrote a book about this. So I feel free to share it publicly, but it turns out it was some stressors in her marriage. And when she wouldn't speak up for herself and talk about what was going on, she would shove those emotions inside of herself. And her back became a pain point of kind of like a check engine light. It was telling her, hey, something in your life has got to change. You need to do something. And since she was just shoving the emotion down, it was showing up in the only way it could, which was through pain. And once she started expressing herself and working with this doctor, within about 3 to 6 sessions, the pain went completely away. No more pain pills, no more driving around with ice packs. And me, with my background, I was like, tell me everything. This is miraculous. What is going on? How did a muscle test tell him what's going on with you? And how did the pain disappear? So her life changed so dramatically. She became a Psyche facilitator, and she needed someone to practice on. So my husband and I, we raised our hands. We said, we would love to benefit from your learning and your practicing. And so she started doing all these processes with us, and it started healing our marriage and healing ourselves. And then our little daughter, she was about, 10 years old at the time. She would have this thing where she'd get a little blemish on her skin or her face, and she'd start picking it until it became like a crater. And she'd say, I don't want to do this. I don't know why I'm picking. I can't stop. And she was wearing Band-Aids to school. We were putting healing salve on it. And it got to the point where I couldn't help her. We tried to talk to her and nothing worked. So we took her to that, what was now probably 88-year-old emotional kinesiologist. And within about 7 minutes, he had it figured out. He was asking her through a muscle test, okay, honey, is it something that's going on at school, or is it something that's going on at home? And her body said something at home. And he said, something with your mom and you? And her body said, no. Something with you and your dad? No. Something between your dad and your mom? And her body said, yes. And so he started asking more questions, something that they do with their body, something they do with their mouth. And it was something that we do with our mouth. And he said, okay, is it singing? Is it arguing? Is it, what are they doing? And it turns out we were arguing. So what happened is when we were arguing, she became anxious and would pick her skin. Oh. And so he turned to me and he said, would it be okay if your daughter waits in the waiting room and I have the rest of the session with you? And I said, uh-oh, I'm in trouble. Yes. And so after that 7 minutes, she never did it again. And my husband and I came in and we healed our marriage. So we noticed the symptom that was going on in our family that was expressed that way. And then we did something about it to change it. So it didn't need to express anymore. And so after that experience, I thought, I need to learn how to do this myself. And I was reading Dr. Bruce Lipton's book on epigenetics, and he had this list of 36 different modalities of how you can heal through the subconscious or through energy healing. And I started studying each and every one. I looked up YouTube videos and got books and looked up what's the methodology. And I found my top 2 favorite. And then I got trained and became certified in a couple of different methods. And so that's what I do now. And I've been doing it for about 5 to 6 years.
Oh my gosh. What are your 2 top favorites?
Yeah, so one of them was called the emotion code. And that's where through a muscle test, I can identify a specific trapped emotion that's blocking somebody from some goal they want, or it's causing pain or a symptom in their lives. And basically, it's just a chart of all these limiting emotions, like things like abandonment or anger, frustration, depression. And I'm asking a person, basically, through a muscle test, is there a trapped emotion that is blocking you from this thing that you want? Or is there one that's causing a symptomology? And we can very easily pinpoint what the emotion is. And then we can ask the body, what age was this person at when this emotion got stuck? And then I ask the person, well, do you remember anything about, do you remember anything about abandonment at age 12? And they'll say, oh yeah, that's when my mom and my dad got a divorce and my dad left the house and I had to start a new school. So usually they'll identify it. And if they have trouble remembering, then we do a muscle test where we just guess. What do you think it might be? Something at school or something at home? Something with you and a parent or something with you and a friend? And we just narrow it down until their body tells us what it is. And then we release it through an energy healing. We release it using the governing meridian, which is a little bit dipping into Chinese medicine.
She's amazing. It's like I've had experience, and I through it, I found out that what came up for me was the word, which I've never ever had this word, unwanted. And it was on my father's side, and I found that I really was not planned to be born, kind of an accident. And that was our whole relationship. But I look back, it's like, well, now I understand this, the word unwanted. And I didn't feel bad, but no emotion, but it was like, it made so much sense. It was that piece of the puzzle that finally was there. And I was like, and Kelli her work, I mean, people don't know her, but Kelli is an incredible being. I mean, just not only an amazing teacher and a counselor, but listens and hears and works with you. And I was amazed. And I've met so many people, but no, really, Kelli, it's very, very true. You really are. And again, for people that don't know, Kelli, because I didn't know also the term you had, which is Psyche. What is that?
Yeah, so that's the other method that I'm trained in, which is psychological kinesiology, again, using muscle testing. And with that, there are processes really quickly within 2 to 5 minutes to bring down stress and trauma. So really, we're getting into that PTSD of it, that trigger that is still playing out in present tense, because the subconscious doesn't know past or future. To the subconscious, it's still happening right now. So we're able to identify what it is. And I check on a scale from 1 to 10, how stressful the subconscious would gauge it, not the conscious mind, but what would the body say to this? And then we're able to do a short process where we diminish the stress. And then we do a post-test to make sure that stress level comes all the way down. And then with Psyche, we can also establish positive subconscious beliefs. So it's very goal-driven. You know what you don't want. So what is it that you would rather have in your life instead? So if somebody's feeling a lot of stress or anxiety, they probably want to feel calm and present or relaxed, or some belief like it's easy for me to handle the ups and downs of life. So it's sort of like an affirmation. But instead of just saying something over and over for 20 years and never seeing an impact, we have these methods to get that to sink into the subconscious, where the subconscious can understand what you're trying to tell it, and then create a real shift. And then we post-test the body to make sure that that shift has happened, so that when they say that belief, that it resonates as truth within their whole being. So it's really cool. A lot of it's like releasing the junk in the trunk. And then what are we going to put in its place? Something really life affirming and positive, so that you can do something awesome.
Oh, that is amazing. What I was so fascinated by hearing was that I saw on your site there are 40 bits of information per second in the subconscious, or I'm sorry, in the
Yes.
conscious mind. And in the subconscious, there's over 20 million.
Yes. It's incredible. It's just like the tip of the iceberg is what we have with the conscious mind. And the rest of the iceberg is what's going on, because we're constantly taking in sights, smells, touch, taste, experience. But our mind filters that out because we would simply go crazy if we attuned to everything at once. But within the supercomputer, it's all in there. Your system knows. It has memories from long ago. Even people that say, I don't remember my childhood, I don't know what happened then, but the subconscious remembers. So we're able to ask questions and get it to the precise thing that happened, and it saves a lot of time. Because in therapy, you might be going 5 years, 10 years. And this way, it's like precision surgery into the exact thing that's causing an issue, and then to create a change so that it's no longer there anymore. It's really cool.
Wow.
Kelly, Psych K facilitator, that's nationwide in America? Is it all over the world?
All over the world, yes.
How long has that existed then?
What is that?
How long has that existed? Because kinesiology has been around for a long, long time. But
about 25 years, or that might have been when I first got trained. So it might be about 30 years now.
Wow.
Yeah, Dr. Rob Williams developed that, and he feels that he channeled that information from higher power, and the processes were revealed to him, and that people that need the work will find it. Yeah.
Can you explain what muscle testing is?
Yes. So we talked about the system being a supercomputer, and basically I'm asking somebody's brain a question, and it scans that supercomputer. And if it resonates as truth, like I mostly do an arm test. So what happens is the brain sends a neural signal down the arm. So if I have somebody say, like, let's say their name is James. And if James says, my name is James. Now, when his brain sends the signal down the arm, it's very strong. It's in congruence. So when I apply downward pressure that's even, we get what's called a muscle lock, and it holds. It's almost like a brick wall is underneath the arm. But if I were working with James and I said, say out loud, my name is Sarah, his brain short circuits. It tries to send the signal down the arm, but because it's a disrupted signal, it's like a short circuit. And we get what's called a weak muscle response, and the arm goes all the way down like a wilting flower. So you get a binary code. You get a yes, no, a true, false. And we do a stress test. Like if somebody thinks about something they like, it makes their whole body go strong. And when they think about something that is stressful or that they don't like, it makes their whole body go weak. So very simply, we can read the signal. And I ask the clients that I work with in person in Encinitas, I have them interpret the signal. That's the beauty of working in person, is that I say, does that feel strong to you, or does that feel weak to you? And they'll know. They say, oh, that's strong or that's weak. And then when I work with people online around the world, I'm muscle testing on their behalf in surrogation for them. In both methodologies, I'm trained to be their proxy or their surrogate. So I'm picking up on their unique energy signal, and I'm doing a muscle test on myself to read that signal. So that's how the muscle testing works.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is fascinating. Everybody is loving this. I mean, this is unbelievable what you do for this.
I have experience with Kelly, and it was all those things, and you muscle tested me, and there were things I just opened myself up to whatever, and I got so much more than I ever would have expected, honestly.
Wow. What kind of issues do people come to you for?
Mostly, I see a lot of anxiety. I see a lot of stress. A lot of people who are stuck. They feel like their life isn't going anywhere. They don't know what to do next. They're in an uncomfortable situation, and they don't know what decision to make. Sometimes it's depression. Sometimes it's things like pain, but not as often. I usually get people that it's more like anxiety or just like a general dis-ease or discomfort in life, and they want something different and better. They want to feel better.
Kelly, do you ever get people that come to you, because I just out of curiosity, who say, I don't feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing?
Oh gosh.
Or I feel like I have negative things around me or people's energy on me. And do you get a lot of those?
Okay, well, what's interesting about the first part that you said is often that's what's going on, but they don't know it. They have all these other reasons that brings them to me, but when they start talking, you realize they're totally out of alignment with what it is they want to do. I have the perfect example. I was working with a young man who's 23 years old today, and his family wants him to be a pilot, and he has a young daughter, 13 months old. And he feels like it would be the right thing to do. It's a good job. It makes good money. But he said in his heart, he really wants to be a writer. And so as we're working together and we're releasing some emotions and we're establishing the positive beliefs, by the end of the session, he said, like, we were really looking for clarity and for him to have a feeling that I belong in my life. And at the end, he goes, you know what? I just want to be a storyteller. And he said, I want to write and I want to tell the story. And I said, well, who do you want to tell stories to? And he said, 16 to 20-year-olds. And I said, well, look how it's flowing. Like everything just started flowing. He knew the answer, but his family was telling him, you need to go do this other thing. And sometimes I'll see somebody, for example, I was working with somebody age 78. And he was an example of somebody who didn't listen. He wanted to be a farmer. His family wanted him to go into something like engineering or doctor or lawyer. So he decided to go into engineering for them, but he really wanted to work in the land, you know? And this man, he wanted to present as a female, but he fell in love with another woman. And she said, if you want to marry me, you're going to have to be a man and you have to dress like a man and you have to call yourself by your masculine name. And so he said, okay, I love you, so I'll do it for you. And it was a nightmare. He never got to be himself. He was always trying to be something for someone else. He had declared bankruptcy 3 times in his life. Like, he was this good guy, but he was always trying to live for others. And his life just kept downward spiraling. So at the age of 78, he came to me to try to live the life that he wanted to live finally. So I hope I can catch the 23-year-old before it's too late and create, you know, and like help him get in alignment with himself. Really, that's a lot of what I do.
Can you work with people who've had big traumas?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Yeah. So it's a simple concept, but it's necessary. We really have to go into the burning building to get through the burning building. So we do these whole brain activities. We have in Psyche, I'm trained in about 18 different processes, and I muscle test their body on which would be the best process to use. So we're already communicating non-verbally. That it's kind of like I'm coming with my toolbox. I have my wrench, I have my hammer, I have my drill, and their body already knows which tool it needs. And so I'll start naming the tools and their body says, yeah, I need that tool right there. And so often we're creating a whole brain state using usually a brain gym activity to balance the right and left hemisphere of the brain. And then I guide them through a process where they go into that trauma, but something amazing happens. And it's usually really quick, in about 2 to 5 minutes. They reach an epiphany because usually they're in a state of high emotion.
Right.
But with that left hemisphere of the brain, that analytical side turns on. It sees something new. So a new thought will appear, like, I've never seen that before. I've never thought that before. But here's a blatant epiphany that comes in. You'll see them take a breath or remember something or think something new. Or sometimes they experience something that feels physical. I've had somebody to say, like, it felt like a clogged pipe and water rushed through it. And then I just felt ease. Or I've had somebody say, like, I feel like love just washed over my whole being. And then I felt light. So they'll experience a change. I'll ask them to look for the change. It'll be a mental, emotional, or physical change. And then after they notice, I'll have them come out of the process, and then we lock in the change. And then I have another muscle test to see, now did that stress go down? So before it may have been an 8 out of 10, and now we'll test to see on a scale from 1 to 10, where is it now? And usually it'll go down to a 2 or a 1, like that. And then I'll have people come to me that have panic attacks. Like this one woman, she couldn't even go to the grocery store. She was afraid in front of her children she would have a panic attack. She would have this little Xanax pill in her pocket just in case she needed it, but she didn't want to take it. And after one session doing a process like that, she never had a panic attack again. We got to the trigger point, we diminished the stress. And she just said, she came to me for a second time because she said, I can't believe it's this easy. And my friends can't believe that that's all it takes. And I said, how do you feel? And she said, I feel great. I have no more panic. It went away. And I said, are you going to the store? Are you going out and living your life? And she said, yeah, it's gone. The anxiety is gone. So it's really quite amazing.
That's amazing. Lori Smith has a question. She says, how do you lock in the change?
So that's through a Psyche process. It's very simple. It's something like this, where we bring our fingertips together. It creates a closed neural circuit. So basically, we're talking with the system, the body-mind system. We're saying something important just happened there. We want to lock that in. And I'll have people hold that for about 10 seconds or until they sense that the lock-in is complete. It's kind of like on the computer, you press the save button.
Yeah.
And then we go through. And normally when we make a change, it's changed for good. There are only a couple of instances where something might return. And usually that's because there's a secondary gain. For example, if somebody is sick all the time and they get a lot of attention and people bring them casseroles and soup and they're always calling, how are you doing? Are you okay? I'm thinking about you. I love you. And then all of a sudden, we have a session and now the pain's gone. And then all those things stop. They stop getting the phone calls. They stop getting the casseroles. It was serving a purpose in their life. Right. So sometimes a new pain might arise, or sometimes the old pain might show its head again because it was doing something for this person. So when something returns, it's showing there's another layer that we need to get to. Maybe it's believing that I'm worthy or I'm lovable, that you don't need to have the people, you don't need to be the sick patient in order to get that type of attention. So it just shows us there's something else we need to address there.
Wow.
Sometimes
I love
that'll
these
happen.
tools in your toolbox because as a therapist, you need more than just talk therapy to often, not all the time, but often to move things along, especially with depression and especially with trauma. And I'm assuming PTSD, you do the same thing.
Very successfully. Exactly.
Wow.
So like working with a man in his 30s, he was in a car accident where he was the passenger in a vehicle and they were going up the hill and around a corner and got into a car crash. And same thing, like he didn't want to get into a car as a passenger anymore, but this was pre-COVID. And he said, I'm a young man. I want to go out with my friends and I want to be able to carpool to work. So he found out about what I do and he came and tried a session. And by the second time I saw him, he came in and I said, how are you doing? After that, we call it a trauma release or a stress release. And he said, it's amazing. He said, I got into the car as a passenger and we went up the hill and around the corner. And he said, I looked for anxiety and it was gone. So
that's amazing.
It is.
That is amazing work. Wow. It's similar, or it's one of the tools here is similar to somatic experience.
We're going to do what I'd like to guide people through is something where we're going to tap into that somatic experience. So yeah.
Oh, great.
I can just say, Kelly, again, from my experience with Kelli Russell, that what you talked about, exactly you described it, letting go of like the opening of the pipe and this washing through this loving thing. And I was always in relationships looking for older guys. I always attracted to older guys. And then once this whole process of being unwanted, one of my father's love, then it came through, oh, that's why I was looking for older guys my whole life. That makes sense.
Look at that. Now some hot young man is going to come into your life.
I'm ready. Yeah. So yeah, it's very interesting. And I mean, the work is so important. And there's so many people that have traumas and that it can be released. We hold on to so much, don't we, Kelly?
Oh yeah,
we do.
It
just gets stuck. It gets stuck. It's like a record that keeps on playing the same pattern because it did serve a purpose at one point to keep us safe. But the mind wants to overgeneralize everything. So if something feels a little bit familiar, it says, run that program, run that program. But then we end up in that state of fight or flight our whole lives until we get into that program and we can tell it, we don't need you to run anymore. Thank you. I've got it from here.
Great. And people that want to get in touch, you see the label, the title here on the screen. But your website is Innermost Sherpa, INNERMOSTSHERPA.com. Innermost
Exactly.
Sherpa, and people can go there too. I went on and they put contact information. You get back to them if they want an appointment. Is that how it works, honey?
Absolutely. They can book a consultation if you want to chat beforehand, but if you're excited to get to work and you said, let's just do it, then we can do a 60-minute session. Or if you've got, a lot of times people come with multiple things they want to work on. So then I would recommend a 90-minute session. And oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. See, they come maybe for one thing, but they find out it's something else. What, like I think you just answered that before. But they come for one thing in their head, but it's totally something completely different.
Often.
You
know what's the funniest thing? And I'll just share it because it's kind of a secret, but it's just so interesting. Usually when we get under the layer, we'll say, what's underneath that? And we'll go under a deeper layer. What's underneath that? What's underneath that? We'll get to that bottom layer. And almost all the time, no matter what the presenting symptom is, no matter what the goal is, usually what's underneath is a feeling that I am unlovable or I'm unworthy. Mm-hmm. And I don't know why all of us human beings have this. It seems universal, but then it's a process of remembering. And I help people reconnect them, back to their source, and remember that you always are whole and complete and worthy. And there's nothing special that you have to do. We just get rid of all the junk that's blocking the people from knowing that.
Right. That's so true. Elisa McGuire says, or she asks, have you ever worked with anyone who suffered from PTSD from being in combat?
I actually, I've had people in my courses that are like my husband and I teach courses called Radical Living and Radical Relationships. So in both of those, we've had people that have been in combat. So in the group setting like that, yes, but I have not worked one-on-one with people that have had that. But it does work on anything under the sun. It works on all things. Wow. Prosperity, love and relationships, self-esteem, health and wellness, any type of stress or trauma.
There's a question here.
A lot of childhood trauma I work with.
Oh, I bet that probably comes up a lot, I would think.
Oh, yeah.
There's a question here. My son-in-law is afraid to fly. Would that be a 60-minute session? And do you work with that? That's a big one.
Yes, I work with phobias often. I would say start with a 60-minute session and then go out into the world and test it out. If there is still any hesitancy or fear, then we go deeper. But oftentimes we can get to it in a single session. Yeah.
Wow. That's just amazing.
People are asking you to do it virtually. Yes, you do it virtually all over the world.
Yes, all over the world. So I'm just linking up energetically, and we have a protocol where we always make sure that it's safe and appropriate. So when I'm linking to your energy, I make sure that it's safe and appropriate for me, and also it is safe and appropriate for you. So if I get a message that no, it wouldn't be a good thing to do that, I will give you your money back. And it's only happened a couple times where like a woman wanted to work on behalf of her estranged son. So I think it wasn't in his best interest. She had some selfish motives, things like that. So it's like the energy knows I tap into the highest self. When I'm working with somebody, it's like I'm working with their super conscious or their highest self, and I'm working from my highest self. So I'm asking that part is, hey, is it okay that we do this? And is it okay, before every process I ask, is it safe and appropriate that we make this change? Because sometimes we have learnings, we have experiences that we need to go through in life. And I don't want to get in the way of that. I just want to enhance their life. So I'm always asking their system, is it safe and appropriate that we make a change here? Is it safe and appropriate that we diminish the stress here, or that we establish this positive belief? I want to always do what's in the best and highest good.
Absolutely.
Kelly, Mara Wolfson, Foster, interesting question. Can newly diagnosed breast cancer be reversed? Can you have physical things that diagnosis or an ailment that can be reversed?
I don't like to get into diagnosis. I have some fellow practitioners who do, but where I find it challenging is to discern whether it's a person's subconscious belief that they're holding about it versus they actually have it. So because I wouldn't want that mistake to be made, I usually don't like to diagnose. But if somebody did suspect they had it, of course, I'd want them to go rule it out and go to the doctor and check. But what I'm helping them with is to establish beliefs like this. My body is the blueprint of health. Every cell in my body is coming back to perfect health. My body heals instantly and permanently. So when the body hears messages like that, it goes, oh, it does? I do? I better get on with the program then. So I'm helping them inform their body to come back to that healthy state. That's how I can be of service.
And Kelly, being the true Virgo, full of integrity. I mean, I've said this to Kelly White all the time, on this pathway. But a lot of people say they're spiritual. They don't walk their talk, but Kelly walks her talk, and she's full of integrity. I mean, that's
Thank you, James.
Wow.
Welcome.
Julie, Kiss has a great question, and I was wondering this too. Can you help borderline personality disorder?
I've had some people, and they have seen success.
Wow.
And I think the challenging part is for me to help them get around labels. And it seems like once they have a label that's coming from the DSM, the diagnostic manual, and they've seen a psychologist or psychiatrist, they associate it as their identity, and they'll use the terminology, my borderline, my anxiety, my depression. Yeah. And so a lot of the struggle that I have is helping them disassociate that from their identity to realize that they can create a positive shift and see great results. Yes, absolutely. It's just changing the way that we look at things, asking how you would rather experience life instead. And then we're creating this subconscious changes for that. And we're letting go of the stressors. And then we're actually making an action plan too, so that you're bridging this into your real life. So at the end of the session, I'll say, what are you going to do differently now? Let's come up with a couple of things that you're going to do in your life so that we can make this really happen for you. And then there's an accountability there. So I'm checking in with them in a week. How are you doing on your action steps? What's going on in your life? What changes are you noticing?
And Kelly White, it's amazing that today, you just started the show off with talking about this major Saturn-Uranus square. And it's like pushing people into change.
Oh, yes.
And now, Kelli Russell, you're talking about change.
It'd be a perfect time to have a session with you, really, to start to remove some blocks, whatever is preventing you from going forward.
Exactly.
And Kelly, Kelli Russell, you want to do a process for people, yes?
I do. And so this isn't the exact one that I did with you, because you and I did a stress trauma release. This one is more about meeting a goal. So I'd like to help us all talk to our subconscious. And then we do that through visual cues, through auditory cues, and through kinesthetic cues. So I thought it would be cool if I helped everyone get closer, if not meet a goal that they have. So step number 1 is figure out something that you would like to see in your life. And James and Kelly White, if you guys would also like to hop in, and everybody that's watching or listening, just if you have maybe a piece of paper nearby or a pen, write down something that you would like to see in your life, but you're going to put it in first person, present tense, simple and powerful. The kind of thing that would make the hair on your arm stand up, because it's so awesome. So, like, for example, let's see. If somebody were struggling with abundance, then we might create a belief that money comes to me in amazing, magical ways each day, something like that. If somebody were dealing with stress and anxiety, it might be, it's easy for me to manage the ups and downs of life. If somebody were in a state of pain, we don't want to use the word pain-free, because the subconscious just still hears that word pain. So what's on the other side of that pain? For example, if somebody had pain in the shoulder, the opposite of that would be, I experience full mobility in my shoulder. My shoulder feels great. So if you know what you don't want, switch it to the opposite. Put it first person, present tense, simple and powerful. Something you could say with your eyes closed, and get very specific with what it is that you want. And the next thing that we're going to do is to create 3 different visual scenarios. So that, again, you could write this down, and it has to be hyper specific, as if we had a Polaroid camera and we took a picture of you. Or maybe it's one of those 30-second Instagram videos. So where are you at? Who are you with? What are you doing? What are you wearing? What are the looks on your faces? If it's somebody that wants to go to Italy, their belief might be like, I am in Italy with 3 friends eating Italian food, you know. So they might see in a visual, I see myself at the restaurant. I'm wearing a sundress and a beautiful hat. There's a fountain nearby and I'm seeing the water in the fountain. The waiter walks by in his white and black outfit. I'm noticing all the people nearby me at the restaurant, and their faces are very excited as they chat with each other. So it's something that you can see, right? You get a good picture of that. And we need 3. So start writing down, what are your 3 visuals? This would be like if we had the magic genie lamp, what would you see in your life that would happen now based on that? And make them 3 different things, 3 totally separate ideas. Get as specific as you can, but remember, this is a visual. It's not what you're saying. It's not how you feel. It would be a look on your face. Like, how do we know someone's relaxed? Well, their shoulders are down, their face is soft, you know, things like that. What do you see? I love it. I love that Kelly and James are participating. I see you furiously writing away. This is great. So very specific. What color do you see? What clothes are you wearing? What people do you see? Or maybe you're all by yourself. If you're on a vacation, where is it? What place are you? Or maybe you're in an airplane going somewhere. Or maybe there's something with your business you want to achieve.
Can you have this visual?
Yes, you see yourself with that partner, and what are you doing together? And what do they look like? And what's the look on your faces as you look at one another? And what's your posture like? Are you laying on the couch with just staring at each other's eyes? Are you by the fireplace with a glass of wine? Are you?
It's a bit private.
Okay, yeah.
Could be financial too. It could be anything.
Right. So if somebody had a business goal, it might be, you know, if you're banking with Chase, you're opening up the Chase app on your phone and you see this amount of money show up in your bank account and you look at it and say, oh my gosh, that's so awesome. That check cleared. Or you're seeing all these little mini payments come in and you're like, yes, I met my goal. This is awesome. I can see the number. Get very specific. Okay, so with the visual, if you still have more left, you can come back to it later. The next one we're going to get to is auditory. So my first question is, what would other people be saying about you if this goal came true? Like for James's example, I found this magical partner in my life and we share this massive love together. Other people might say, oh my gosh, I'm so excited for James. They look so happy together.
Put that down. Now stop.
Right. So what would people be saying about you? So if you had pain and the pain was gone, they'd say, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you can come out with us. And now you can go for a hike because your hip doesn't hurt. You know, yay, I'm so thankful that you can come and do activities with us. Or they might notice that you look so vibrant or energized, or wow, this person is so awesome. And then the next question is, what would you be saying to yourself in your own mind, in your own language, using your own vernacular? What would you be saying to yourself?
And write that down, right?
Yeah, write it down. What would you be saying to yourself? You're like, I did it. This is freaking awesome. I found my person. Okay. And then the next part will be the kinesthetic part. And the subconscious speaks in symbols and feelings. So that's what we're going to do next. So what we'll do is get what's called a whole brain state, a whole brain posture. And this is one of those things that helps the left and the right hemisphere of the brain turn on and activate. And we're going to simply get into this by bringing one ankle over the other, crossing at the ankles. Bring your arms out in front of you. Place one wrist over the other. It doesn't matter which one for this practice tonight. You're going to turn your thumbs down, interlace your fingers, and either rest your hands in your lap, or you're going to roll your knuckles up to your heart and relax your elbows down by your hips there. So whichever one is most comfortable. And certain people, if you have pain or arthritis, or if you don't feel well to do that, you can just simply cross your arms down in your lap like that. You don't have to do anything fancy. If that hurts, just do something basic like that. Okay, now you're going to close your eyes. Okay, now think about this goal that you have. Now, if you experienced that goal, how would you feel? Describe it in one word, one powerful, magnificent word. Figure out what that word is. And now you're going to bring that feeling to you as much as you can. Maybe you felt it before sometime in your life. If you've never felt it before, you're just going to imagine it. Going to draw this feeling into you. And when you're experiencing this feeling, notice where in your body do you feel that? Do you feel it in your chest, or do you feel it in your stomach, or do you feel it in your fingers and your toes, or do you feel it in your head? Where in your body do you feel that feeling? And what does that feel like? Is it warm? Is it tingly? Is it cool? Is it throbbing? What does that feel like? And if this feeling has a color, what is the first color that comes to mind? And if this feeling has a shape, what shape is it? Don't overthink it. Just let it come to you. What shape is that? And if this feeling has a temperature, what temperature is it? And if this feeling has a texture, how does it feel when you touch it? And bonus, if this feeling has a taste, what does it taste like? All right, so go ahead and very gently open your eyes, and you can unhook your legs and unhook your arms. So now think, is there an action step that you feel called to take? Is there, we talked to the subconscious, we gave it symbols. Now your system goes, oh, that's what that looks like. That's what that sounds like. That's what that feels like. That's what I feel like when I have that. So now, is there any action step that you could take to bridge this into your life? And if so, write down an idea or two. Maybe there's a little step you could take. That's one thing that you can do in your real life to open yourself up to this possibility. If I were working with a man who wanted to be an Olympic swimmer, and we created all these beautiful subconscious beliefs. I'm the fastest swimmer in the world. Butterfly stroke is my easiest stroke. I always beat my previous time. And we get rid of all the trapped emotions blocking him from that. He still has to get into that pool. You have to get into the pool of life, or you're not going to experience that change. You must put it into action. And those are the people that experience the results, is that 10% who says, now I'm going to get out there and do it. And if you can do it with, just lessen the importance around it and just do it. And even if it's imperfect, don't wait until it's perfect. Just take the first step. Even if you feel a little fear, do it anyway. turn that into excitement and just take that step, and you will start to see these things come to life. So when you're done, I don't know if anybody still wants to write things down about their visuals, but when you're done, it's really cool to take that piece of paper and to fold it up, and then to put that piece of paper somewhere, like a drawer or a nightstand or something where you hardly ever go in there, like maybe a junk drawer. But then about a year and a half later, you're going to look in there and you're going to find that piece of paper, and you'll open it up and you'll realize how much of that actually did come true. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Thank
you, everybody.
Wow.
Thank you, Kelly.
Amazing.
That was wonderful. Wonderful exercise for people. Wow, it was great for me. How about you, James?
Great for me. I started getting very emotional, though. I don't know why, but I got very emotional. It was like a knowingness, or like a.
Yes.
I don't know. Was that normal?
Yes, because you're tapping into that. First of all, you're getting into that whole brain state. So now new things can come in. Things that you haven't thought of before can make their way in. And then you're generating a feeling around it. And then you're noticing that's the somatic experience. Where do I feel that in my body? What does that feel like? And then the symbology, what are the symbols around that? So all of a sudden there's emotion that's created. And then it's like your whole body, mind, spirit goes, oh, that's what you've been trying to tell me. That's what you want. And sometimes people have never defined it. They just go, I know I don't want that. Right. I know I don't want that thing over there. But when you really think about it, they've never actually pinpointed what it is they want instead. So it really does help to do that.
Wow. Other people have got getting emotional, James, here. People are saying that, yes.
I was crying, kind of, yeah.
Oh.
It was more like a good cry. I was like a knowing, awareness, like, oh, I know this, and
And whatever comes up, just let it be, rather than stifling it. Or if somebody starts crying, sometimes people will try to stop themselves, or they start to go into a deep breathing technique or something. Don't try to stop yourself. Just let whatever is present be present. Ride the wave of it. Let it through. It's trying to be there for a reason. It's telling you something.
Wow. A woman named, I don't know if this is her name, but Google me, says, thank you so much for helping me unlock some restrictive thoughts. I feel so much better and more balanced and positive.
That's so wonderful. I love it. This work can be so powerful and so quick. So I love that it can impact you. Thank you so much for joining us and for trying that activity.
Wow.
Great, Kelli Russell.
Yeah, wow. That was a lot of people had emotions, James. A lot of that.
Good.
Wow.
Because I really did. And I did before, Kelli, when you worked on me, emotion. Not as much as I thought I would, but I was emotional. But this time was a different emotion type of thing. It was like kind of knowing an awareness emotion, like letting yourself deserve whatever it is,
And that gets right into that thing I was talking about. It's like, I am worthy. I am lovable. This can happen. This, like, all of those things are within me, and that has a chance to come through, right?
Yeah.
I deserve good things to happen.
Wow.
So,
wow.
I'm fortunate to be with Kelli twice a week and share time with her and space with her. It's miraculous. We just fly. We fly and we do our poses, and
we do.
Oh my gosh!
Yes, some magical. So Innermost Serpent, and that's how you can contact Kelli Russell. And Kelli, thank you so much for your time and sharing with us.
It was so much fun. Thank you guys for hosting and for inviting me. It was just such a blast, as I knew it would be. You guys are amazing.
Well, you're amazing. And we can't wait to have you back on with your husband when you guys are going to be teaching classes, and it's going to be great. We'll have you back on again. Oh, so many people. You've affected so many people here, Kelli. People are crying, and it's unbelievable. Wow.
I'm so happy. That's what I do this for, just to help people just really create a life that they love, so that they're not like those grownups that I saw when I was 12 years old that got up and did things they didn't like every day, and they were so stuck. We have such a beautiful co-creatorship with life that when we can start really tuning into what that is, and then melding that with the magic of source, so many amazing things start happening. It's like a brand new playing field opens up that is magic.
You start sparkling. You sparkle.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks,
Thanks,
Renee.
everybody.
Kelly.
Thanks, Kelly.
Thanks,
Bye, Dave. Thank you,
Bye,
everybody.
Bye.
You've been listening to Both Sides Now and Beyond, featuring spiritual medium and master teacher James Van Praagh and spiritual medium and psychotherapist Kelly White.
The James and Kelly Show.